Hello, good afternoon. My name is Catherine Kennedy. I'm the New South Wales Director at P2P. It's 12:30 on Friday in Sydney, which means it's time for our regular live broadcast. So we're going live on Facebook, on YouTube and on LinkedIn. Ordinarily, our Group Managing Director, Mark Smith, would host today, but he's enjoying a well-deserved mini break and he's making the most of the borders reopening, and I think he's on the way to Queensland at the moment. So hopefully you're having a safe journey, Mark. So in his absence, I'll be steering the ship today. So what's on the agenda? Well, I've got the regular numbers section, just as Mark would do. So I'll share some information that just gives a bit of an indication about what's happening in the market at the moment. We're also going to be joined by Ben Wheeler, who is our Director of Queensland, and Ben's going to give us a bit of an overview about what's happening in Brisbane. Manish Jowry from our P2P HR Solutions team has got an opportunity to share with us today. And then last but certainly not least, we have Bianca Luck, who is my fellow director here in New South Wales and also the manager of our temp and contracting business, and she will be presenting our temp of the month. So good to have you all on board, guys, and thank you very much to everyone for joining us. If you're watching live, please, if you've got any questions or comments as we go through, just add them. So I'll do my best I can see them coming through live, and I'll do my best to look at them and we'll respond to them as they pop up. So with all that said, let's get into it with our regular numbers section. Excellent. So look, I thought I'd share some numbers that just give a little bit of an indication about what's happening in the market. And certainly I can say that there has been a discernible shift in confidence over recent weeks. There's definitely an optimism in the market that we hadn't seen for some time. And the slides that I'll show you hopefully give a little bit of an indication of the recovery that I think is underway. So if you pop the first slide up there, Jayden, what you can see here is job postings on Indeed, and this is the 7-day rolling average from February until the 20th of November, so very up-to-date information, and we're comparing 2019 versus 2020. You can see on the left there, Victoria has been, I guess, segmented out, just given the unique circumstances Victoria found themselves in, and then Australia on the right-hand side. Pretty clear which line is 2019 and which line is 2020. So the blue line where the job postings really just fell off a cliff in April is obviously 2020. Why I wanted to show this is that it indicates the recovery that's underway, particularly in the rest of Australia. You can see that we are ending 2020 in a very similar position to we were at the same time in 2019. So those orange and blue lines have essentially come together, and it's certainly edging ever closer in Victoria, and a very, very sharp improvement since that second wave has come under control. So I thought that was interesting, just to give an indication about what's happening in terms of job postings and hiring activity. The next slide there, Jayden, I'll get you to show is, I guess, a wider view of some of the unemployment metrics that we look at in Australia. So the unemployment rate, but also the underemployment rate. And the underemployment rate really indicates people who are employed, they're working, but they're not getting as many hours as they would like. So the unemployment rate in Australia hit a peak in July of 7.5%, and that was the highest unemployment rate we'd seen in about 20 years or so. That's the green line that you can see there. What's interesting about this slide is that the underemployment rate, so that's people who are working but not getting enough hours, that is improving, so declining, at a more rapid rate than the unemployment rate. So really what that indicates is that as businesses are starting to open up again, and people who were potentially stood down in COVID, or their hours were significantly reduced in the I guess the peak of the pandemic, they're starting to come back to work, and that's also an indication of that recovery. And I would expect that that will translate in time to a continuing improvement in the unemployment rate. If anyone really follows the numbers closely, the unemployment rate did rise by 0.1% in the last month, but that is really an indication of the increased participation rate rather than I guess a reduction in real vacancies. So more people have re-entered the workforce as the market's opened up, and some of the health and pandemic conditions have improved as well. So the final slide that I'll get you to jump to there, Jayden, and this just gives a little bit of an indication about what's been happening with respect to permanent or full-time employment versus part-time employment. So the blue is the March to May period, the orange is the June to October period. you can see in March to May, which is right when I guess the real impact of the pandemic began to be felt, there were significant losses both of full-time and part-time employment. But in the bounce back, so June to October, and I expect this will continue as we head into 2021, there's been a greater bounce in part-time work than there has been in full-time work. So really all the jobs that were lost in part-time in real numbers in that early period have come back, but we haven't quite got there for full-time employment as yet. I think that could be indicative in some ways of the types of industries that are really dominated by part-time work, so retail, hospitality, etc. But they're also, I think, is a bit of a lifestyle choice of people are reconsidering what's important to them, and I think there's more demand for part-time work, and there's certainly more flexibility being offered by employers who've been forced into those situations, and I think that could also be an indication about what's happening in that part-time space. But look, all of that data, I think, is indicative of improving conditions, and that's certainly been our experience in the market. And I would say if you're a job seeker and right now you've got cause to feel more optimistic than you probably could have for the last couple of months. Naturally, this Christmas holiday season, I think, will slow a bit of that momentum, but I'm feeling cautiously optimistic about improving conditions as we head into 2021. So with all of that said, why don't we deep dive a little bit more into a specific market, and we'll head up to Queensland and have a chat to Ben Wheeler and get his updates on what's happening up in Queensland.
Great. Hi, Kath.
Hello. How you doing?
Very good, thank you. In Queensland, and it's such great interest to see those slides coming through. It's following on that trend. So we saw a definite increase in November. In fact, November was our best month for placement this year, which follows through with what you were just saying. In fact, it ended up being better than November 2019, which was a very good result. When you listen to, I think it was Josh Frydenberg recently saying that 80% of the people that lost their roles and had their hours cut at the start of COVID are now back at work. It's probably not that surprising. We have seen a resurgence, and that's definitely what happened for us just last month, and even going into December. It still seems, although it hasn't slowed down, which usually it would do, but I think there's been a bit of a backlog. Confidence has come back, and now people are starting to say a bit of a rush to get into to hiring. The exception, I would say, so if you're looking at which sectors, which industries, it really is at the moment really across the board. The only thing that's outside of that, probably the travel, aviation sector is definitely still quiet. I think that will remain. Perhaps that is that 20%. A couple of trends that I'd mentioned that we've obviously had this resurgence in the number of vacancies, but what's been challenging has been that the candidates looking, it actually has slowed down a bit. So what we're seeing is that, quite frankly, people have had a very challenging year. And if you're employed, you are not necessarily thinking, I'm going to look for a new role at the moment. A lot of people just emotionally exhausted with the uncertainty of the year. And they're thinking, do you know what? I've got to wait till next year, going to have a holiday and start again. So with the roles that are coming through, we're sort of working against that, seeing that the candidate activity has slowed down, which is fairly typical for this year, but I think probably more so than years that have gone past. There is those people
are tending to, sorry to cut across you, but businesses are continuing with their hiring, like the people who are wanting to hire, there's still all systems go at this time of year.
Yes, yeah, which is not, we usually see a slowdown, but I think there's been this backlog, and now people are going, you know what, maybe the confidence is there, we'll start hiring, and then it's just a bit of a challenge with the people that are employed, is thinking I'm going to sit it out to the new year, have my break and come back. So I think looking into next year, I think usually we talk about what happens over the Christmas period, because we get this mad rush in January, people looking, you have those barbecue chats, and you might find out the brother-in-law was doing the same job, earning more money, and you come back and say, right, I'm looking for a new job. I don't think it'll be about money this year. I think the conversation is likely to be flexibility, particularly around obviously people that are working from home and they've got lots of flexibility. That seems to be what people will be looking to take in the new year. So the old sort of golden handcuffs will now be, I think, not dollars. Yeah. If you're looking to attract staff, we're going to be looking at what flexibility you're offering. And just on that point, going through the COVID period this year, it seems as though it's been quite two clear camps for employers. You've either gained some loyalty during this period, and that's by doing the right thing by your team and your staff, and making sure everybody's looked after, because it's not obviously just been a recession. It's also the health aspect, which is very personal about you obviously caring about your team. And then there's the other camp, which is probably not done the right thing by their team. And then there's some resentment that's built. And because the market has really been very quiet to up until about now, I don't think many employers have seen the impacts of that. But certainly come the new year, I imagine we'll see quite a few people that have built some resentment then say, right, now I'm going to be looking. So I'm expecting going into January, we'll start to have the influx of the candidates, and hopefully the job flow will continue to pick up.
Excellent. Well, it sounds all fairly positive. I did hear a stat the other day. I can't remember the specific number, but that regional, this was New South Wales, but it might be the same in Queensland, but that there's a real peak in people looking to move further and further out of the city, directly related to that increasing demand for flexibility and remote working. I think that'll be a trend that we continue to see.
Absolutely. And in fact, just looking at Brisbane, it's been interesting to hear how many people have realised if they do have the flexibility to work from home, that they've been the housing market here has picked up by quite a bit, particularly Sunshine Coast, Gold Coast, as people have realised without that 5-day commute, maybe they can live out further. And of course, if you've been working from home for a period, you might decide that your office and your nursery or in the room cupboard isn't going to work. So people have been looking to move, which which has created quite a big movement around housing market here.
Interesting. Excellent. Well, if anyone wants to get in contact with you and get more insights about what's happening in Queensland and they're looking for work, what's the best way for them to reach you, Ben?
Simply give me a call, 0731180125, or you can drop me an email if you prefer at ben@people2people.com.au.
Great. Thank you. Good to talk to you.
Great.
Thanks, Ben.
Thank you.
Excellent. Well, what we'll do now, we'll go and we will look at the opportunity of the week. So we're joined by Manish from our P2P HR Solutions team. Now, welcome, Manish. I think this is your first time on Facebook Live. A lot of us are, sort of veterans now, but it's really good to see a new face. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Catherine. It is definitely my first time, so please forgive me if I am a little bit nervous, though I don't think.
I should, no problem at all. But what's the opportunity that you wanted to tell us about today?
All right, so we've got a client who is a very well-known and respected manufacturer of home appliances and mobile products. With the changes that COVID has brought this year to everybody, I suppose, this client has had to also adapt in the way that they sell their products. So they've moved a significant part of their sales online. So the past few months, they've experienced quite a big boom in their online sales, both through B2B as well as B2C. So what we're looking for is a logistics supervisor that is going to focus exclusively on their e-commerce operations. Okay. Obviously, being a supervisor, we're looking for somebody that has had experience, at least 3 years, looking after either an operations or a project, or even a group of people that is focused on logistics mainly. Doesn't matter if it was behind the desk in an office or in an actual warehouse. And the role is also, it does also act as a second in command to the national distribution manager at the client. Full-time role based in the client site in Sydney Olympic Park. Okay. And quite simply, right, it's separated into four different key responsibilities, right? You've got execution, you've got analyze, you've got report, and then you've got support, right? Yeah. So execution, basically this client runs a lot of promotions. This client also has got different product launches at different times of the year. And also we've got, our peak periods as well, such as financial year, end of financial year, sorry. You've got, Mother's Day. You've got,
remember that. I think we've got a link to the advertisement that we'll share, which will have a lot more of the detail, which will be good. Is there any particular sort of industry background or kind of, profile in terms of the company that the potential candidates might come out of that you're looking for?
somebody that has been in the logistics, warehousing, transportation business for at least 3 years, and somebody that has got stakeholder management because they'll be doing plenty of it, internal and external, and somebody that is just passionate about making sure that customers get their goods in the time that has been promised to them.
Yeah, great. And what's the time frame on this? I'm just mindful how close we are to this sort of Christmas period. Is this a role that is recruiting and interviewing and would have someone start pretty quickly, or what sort of time frame are we looking at?
No, it's exactly as what you said. We are looking for somebody as soon as possible. So open to applications ASAP.
Great. Excellent. Well, we'll make sure that the link to the job ad is shared there. If people want to, if they've got questions or they want to make contact, what's the best way for them to reach you, Manish?
Call me on my mobile 044 77 10791. Unfortunately, I don't have an office desk. Sorry. Or the easiest way is to give me to send me an email, simply manish@people2people.com.au.
Great. Excellent. Thanks for joining us, Manish. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Cheers. Excellent. And so now, last but not least, as I said, I'm happy to get Bianca Luck back on, and B, I think, is an absolute veteran at Facebook Live. I'm very to have you join us, B, to talk about the temp of the month for November.
Thanks, Kath. I'm wearing my best festive outfit.
As
this will be my last Facebook Live appearance this year because I'm off on holidays in a couple of weeks. So I wanted to see this as an opportunity to thank all the People2People's clients and candidates that have supported us this year in what has been a really challenging year, to say the least. Temps have been great. They've very quickly switched to a work from home arrangement without a fuss. And so from all of us at People2People, we're most grateful for everything you guys do for us. So, and before I launch into the winners, I wanted to share a photo of one happy winner from September last year. So this is Helen Tran. She won a voucher, and look how happy she is. Isn't she amazing? So also just a reminder for clients to actually nominate their temps, because they are really special. And sadly, we didn't receive any nominations for Brizzy and Perth and Adelaide this month. So the winners for the other locations and the nominations for the other locations are, so Auckland, the winner we have, Matteo Lara Cerna. So Matteo's manager said, Matteo is a great worker, very quick to pick things up and fits into the team really well. I'm taking him on fixed term contract next year. He deserves to win. So certainly he did win Auckland, which is amazing. So for Melbourne, we have the nominations, Emily Cooper-Watts and Georgina Gonzalez. So the winner for Melbourne is Georgina Gonzalez. So Georgina is the best temp I've ever had the pleasure of working with. When she started, she worked 3 days a week so she could continue her volunteer work. And Georgie is an extremely diligent candidate in everything she does, which is amazing.
Wow. It's pretty
Parramatta,
good feedback, isn't it?
No, it's amazing. So Parramatta, we have the winner, Kathy Wang. Kathy's very diligent, always willing to help others, very reliable. She's really made a difference. Her role was very manual before she started. The team was struggling, but she managed to sort everything out and get everything out of, under control. In Sydney, the nominations, we have Kevin Wu and Roy Cortez. So the winner is Roy Cortez. Roy works super hard day in, day out. He's a great influence to those around him, showing attention to detail and awesome attitude all the time. So thank you to everyone that's nominated. Well done to the winners. I hope you have a really great, safe, festive season. And I'll see you guys on the flip side in 2021.
Drops the mic. Before you go, B, I've just had a quick look at the comments, and I can see there's a comment from Chloe, and I thought you're the expert to ask here. She's currently on a working holiday visa. She's looking for temp work. What are your top tips for her to secure a role?
Connect with a consultant. So send her resume to me. I can find something for her.
There you go. We're not sure where you are, Chloe. So depending on the city that you're in, it might be Bianca and her team, or it might be somebody else. But we'll make sure that we give you the right contact details. And as a first step, you can shoot your info through to B, and I'm sure she'd be happy to have a chat to you. And give you
Speak to a consultant. So get in contact with a consultant. Try and meet with them face to face if you can, because it outweighs a virtual interview any time of the day. And then build a rapport with that consultant. Call them every week, see if there's any opportunities. But yeah, send your resume through to us, and we can certainly hook you up.
Excellent. Thank you, Bea. And I think that really brings us to an end today. So thanks everybody for joining us. We'll make sure that the links to the job advertisements, the contact details of everyone who's been on the broadcast will be there today. Will be there for you to look at. If you are a job seeker and you're looking for work, you can subscribe to job alerts via our website. So I'd suggest that you do that. And please subscribe also to our blog and follow us on all of our social channels. We're across all of them, and you can then get career insights, market updates, etc. So thanks again for joining us. We will be back for one more time next week. So 12:30 next Friday, I think, will be the last Facebook Live of 2020. And then I think there's a lot of people who'll be quite glad to close the 2020 chapter, head off and have a bit of a Christmas break and come back fresh and ready to go in 2021. So have a great weekend, everyone, and thanks for watching.